Let's talk about love, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Hey folks, my name is Jen, and today I am coming to you with a book recommendation video, actually, for love stories. So I know that this video is going to be coming out actually after Valentine's Day. However, while I am currently filming it, tomorrow is actually Valentine's Day, and I guess I'm kind of in that sort of mood right now. So we're gonna talk about some romances that I find particularly cute or steamy, and the books that I kind of recommend if you are looking for a particular thing, I guess. So most of the books that I'm going to talk about are adult romance novels, and then a couple of them actually are more for young adult, and they're not necessarily romances. They're either technically like contemporary, I guess, or fantasy or sci-fi in a manner of speaking, I guess. But yeah. So to start off with, if you are looking for particular romances that are very have a lot of mutual respect between the two characters, and there's also like a lot of other stuff happening in the book, which is also very exciting and interesting, and you like good humor as well, I would highly suggest the Reluctant Royals series by Alyssa Cole. Kitty cat, stop that. So this series, I've talked it up in a few other videos already at this point. I have the first two books here, A Princess in Theory and A Duke by Default. There are 3 books in total plus 2 novellas. And now there is an offshoot series, The Runaway Royals. These books are just absolutely wonderful. There are some steamy love scenes in here. The characters are all very believable characters. The love stories are great, watching them develop, and there's just so much humor and charm and just wonderful writing throughout this series. So if you're looking for something steamy and that also has like characters who help each other grow, this is a good series for that. Now for some other romances, so I know that I haven't really been talking about Nora Roberts' writing in a very favorable way lately, just because I have unfortunately not been having a very good time with some of her older volumes from like the 80s and 90s. But I can recommend, well, a standalone and also a couple of series that were pretty great. If you like Nora Roberts' writing at all, or if you like books, for example, books that have twisty-turny plots, but also perhaps have something to do with like fate or magical, mystical, supernatural elements of any kind, I would recommend firstly 3 Fates. So this has to do with a survivor of the sinking of the Lusitania. He had been a petty thief, and he had stolen this statue, which is one of a set of 3, depicting the 3 fates. A century later, that has indeed been stolen as well from them, and his great-grandchildren, I believe, decide that they are going to have to travel around the world to find this, and it's like a love story for those kids, and there's also mystery and a little bit of that mystical kind of element that Nora Roberts likes to throw in as well. It's pretty delightful. For a kind of magical-ish series, I would recommend the Three Sisters Island series. This is the first book, Dance Upon the Air, and this takes place on Three Sisters Island, which is a fictional island off the coast of Massachusetts, which was, per the legend, created by 3 witches who were escaping from Salem during the witch trials. And this is about three women who kind of come together and seem to be potentially the reincarnation of these previous witches who had created the island. There's definitely parts of the series with the romances, especially with the third book that I wasn't fully on board with. However, overall it's a very sweet story to watch develop between each of the couples, and it's also just, again, it has that like mystical element in the background that's always cool in her book. If you just want straight up steamy and sweet romances that but are also potentially obsessed with like weddings or Say Yes to the Dress or anything like that, I would highly suggest the Bride Quartet. This is the first book, Vision in White, and this is all about four friends. They've started their own wedding planning business. This first book is all about one of them, who is the wedding photographer. Then there's the baker, the florist, and of course the girl who plans everything. So this just goes through not only their budding romances, but also the friendship between these women. There's a lot of hilarious banter, there's shenanigans, there's also a lot about wedding planning that is just so wonderful. And I know that I really loved this series, and I really loved rereading it when I was in the midst of my husband and I planning our wedding. But yeah, if you're looking for some great female friendships and some steamy scenes, and you really are into like wedding planning and wedding shows and stuff like that, you're gonna love the shit out of this. Now, if you are trash for Jane Austen books, especially Pride and Prejudice, if you are just complete trash for Pride and Prejudice, or you've watched Bridgerton and you're also finding it pretty hard to get a hold of the books currently, because everyone seems to have bought them and everywhere is sold out, I have a suggestion for you. So this isn't honestly a full period piece, obviously, but parts of it do take place sort of in the time period. But yeah, if you're like looking for something that's kind of like that, but also is more specific to like Pride and Prejudice, I would highly suggest Seducing Mr. Darcy by Gwen Creedy. This is an embarrassing cover. I think I've mentioned this cover before as something that is kind of slightly embarrassing to look at. So this basically follows a girl named Flip who thinks that, you know, Mr. Darcy might be okay if he would just like rip open his shirt or do something more attractive than just being, as this says, mannerly high-tension longing. So she ends up going to this, like, massage parlor that has, like, a therapeutic massages with an opportunity to imagine yourself in your favorite book. So when she has imagined herself into Pride and Prejudice, things get kind of steamy and crazy pretty quick with Mr. Darcy. She has actually been transported into the book and just bones down with him in the middle of the book, which unfortunately seems to have changed the course of the book itself because of her action. So there's like an underlying, very kind of whacked out but interesting plot, but at the same time you get to see Mr. Darcy being very kind of, you know, way more attentive than he was in the actual book. There's also some other steamy scenes in here as well with another it's like, if you like Pride and Prejudice, but you also don't take Pride and Prejudice too seriously, and you wouldn't mind seeing someone kind of getting involved with it, and you're okay with having a different look at some of the characters in there, I would highly suggest this. This is just, it's fun. It's fun. Getting into the world of young adult a little bit for a second, I would have to mention a book that I've recently finished reading, which I will end up talking more about in my February wrap-up. And that would be the love triangle that exists in Felix Ever After. As you know, I have said in another video, I am not a huge fan of love triangles. Which I have to say, again, not a huge fan of the love triangle, but the relationship that develops over time in here, very sweet, very good. Also, nice representation in here. So I would say if you are looking for a book that has some good LGBTQ plus representation, a kind of cute relationship that kind of develops, but also don't mind some other important bits about representation and being who you are and everything like that, I would highly suggest this book. Diving back into adult for a moment, now you've heard me talk about Make Habit like a shit ton, so I have a couple more of her books to mention as far as like romance goes specifically. This first one, which is one of her adult romances, is called Boy Meets Girl. It is told, much like Princess Diaries is told in like a diary form, like Mia's diary, this is actually told through various to-do lists and letters of the main character, Kate, and it also has like chat conversations and journal entries and emails and voicemail transcripts and just really interesting things. It utilizes media in a very cool way to tell this story. I also really love the romance that develops over here. So if you would like a romance story that is at the same time, besides being cute watching it develop, but also very fucking funny, you really like a lot of humor in your romance novels, and you really like you know, friendships and very clearly characters who are trying so hard to like do the right thing. Like, it's like there's a romance in here, but it's almost kind of in the back seat of everything else important that is going on in here. So if you're looking for that, or you're also looking for books that, again, use emails and chats and like various things to tell the story, I highly recommend this. Also, with Make Habit, I would have to discuss again another one that is a young adult, but is also a period piece. So if you were looking for a period piece that is not steamy, or if you have younger people in your life, I guess, that you would like to know more historical fiction romances, but you don't feel comfortable about handing them something that has a lot of sex in it, I would highly suggest Nicola and the Viscount. This is, again, a historical fiction novel. It's set in, oh, when is it? Like 1810, I think? Yes, 1810. Set in London, about a young girl who is an orphan and is about to dive into London society, and has like this guy she's very much has a huge crush on. He's a Viscount, and there's shenanigans ensue. It is cute. It is pretty funny, and I mean, for a historical novel, you know, I found it very, the romance in here is very cute. Again, the friendships in here are very cute. I really enjoyed like the little historical asides and things. The romance in here is of course very cute. Nicola is just hilarious. The story itself is pretty funny, but there's also like very good things talked about in here as well, and it just, I don't know, it's a cute little fun read. yeah, so if you're looking for something that's kind of cute and fun and also takes place in that kind of society in the 1800s, here you go. And of course, if you're looking for, I guess, more of a classic romance or something, I would suggest Jane Austen's books. I haven't finished reading all of them, but I would highly recommend, first of all, of course, Pride and Prejudice, classic, haters to lovers sort of deal. It's a classic for a reason. It makes some great remarks on society at the time, and it's just, you know, it's a great read, and I love Darcy. It's like, I feel you, man. From one shy person to another, I get you. And then, of course, Persuasion. Persuasion is also a very good one. There were some lines in that book that just punched me right in the fucking heart. Such a good story. Talk about a slow burn romance. That one is just intense, and also discussing, again, society and dealing with toxic people, even if they're in your own family, and it's just... And then, I don't have either of those books with me because I've lent them out, but I can also mention Northanger Abbey, which I have a hard time choosing between my favorites of her books because I find them all to be delightful, and I like all of the heroines and the heroes for very different reasons. But this in particular is just a great, the way it talks about writing and, again, society and false friends and just letting your imagination run wild a little bit. Catherine is delightful. The humor in here is just wonderful. And I absolutely love Henry Tilney. Like, he almost usurps Darcy as my, like, book, my period book boyfriend a little bit, because he's just so wonderful. His sense of humor is like one of the greatest things about him. And if you're looking for a book that, again, you want a more of a classic read and you don't mind having something that has like maybe a slightly spooky element to it and has like characters that have such great senses of humor, I would highly suggest Jane Austen's books in general, but most specifically Northanger Abbey, because it's just wonderful. And then I have like some honorable mentions. I have some books that are not romances specifically, but they have love stories that I find to be very cute and maybe a little bit slow burny, but nice to watch as they develop. So if you're looking for a story that has a wonderful romance in it, but that's not the main thing that you're caring about, I have some honorable mention series right here, which again are kind of young adult or middle grade, so you probably know about them, or you've heard me like talk about them non-fucking stop. First up are some books by Meg Cabot, because of course it's been a while since I've talked about Princess Diaries, but yeah, let's talk about Princess Diaries. Again, wonderful, fun series. I mean, I guess Mia can be a bit much sometimes with her dramatics, but as someone who was also a slightly dramatic, writing, anxiety-ridden teenager, this was like on par with where I was when I was first reading this series. Again, romances. The romance that develops over the series is just cute. Seals the main guy in as like still one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. High up there on my list. So yeah, you probably know all about this series. Mia finds out that she is the princess of the country of Genovia, and guess what? Because her dad can no longer have children, she is the one who is going to have to be trained to be the crown princess someday because the line must continue and all that jazz, and this is just her crazy life of dealing with that and dealing with high school and sucking at math and having crushes on her best friend's brother and just stuff. It's just fun, and I mean, again, I fucking love Michael. Just absolutely fucking love him so much. There we go. And also with Meg Cabot, I have 2 other series that are just, again, this was my shit when I was in high school and was just dreaming that, you know, some guy would be a ghost and live in my house and be sexy, or have some dude let me ride on his motorcycle and be trouble or whatever. So if you're looking for something that has like spooky ghosts but also is fucking hilarious and has a character who's pretty badass, I would suggest the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. It has to do with a girl who is hiding the fact that she can speak to ghosts and see them, and this makes her life even more difficult when she ends up moving into this new house with her family, and surprise, there is an 18-year-old, I think he was 18-year-old ghost who is already occupying her house, specifically her bedroom. It's not as bad as it sounds. He's very respectful, but yeah, anyway, great series. If you're looking for something that has a little bit more sci-fi, technically, maybe, I would suggest the 1-800 Where Are You series. This is about a girl who is struck by lightning and suddenly gains the ability to be able to tell where people are. Basically, she'll see the image of like a missing child, like a poster or a milk carton or something, go to bed. The next morning she knows exactly where their location is, which complicates her life, which is already complicated. This series, like, fucking phenomenal. It talks about some very, like, important topics in here as well, and I fucking love Jess. Like, she has a tendency to just punch people first and ask questions later sometimes, but I mean, that's an attitude that I enjoyed as a teenager, as someone who hated confrontation. And yeah, it's just, yeah, if you're looking for a badass female character with a slightly bad boy but not really male character, and then you're also very interested in that kind of topic, yeah, highly suggest this as well. And then lastly is a series that I guess the romance is still kind of going. I'm not fully finished with the second series yet. So you're looking for relationships that are kind of very slow burn developing, from friends to a little something extra. I would suggest, of course, the Percy Jackson series, because it's largely just a fantasy series. It's about like a bunch of other things, but it also has this kind of relationship developing over the course of it as well, and then you get into the Heroes of Olympus, which I'm still working my way through. But yeah, so they're just delightful, and yeah, if you're looking for something that you want a little taste of the romance, but you're mostly focused on like other more important things, hey, good fucking time. So that is it. Those are my romance-y suggestions, I guess. I know a couple of them are not so much romance specific, but the love stories in them I really love and appreciate. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.